Hello, everybody. This is Jennifer Fox with Fox Property Management, and this is Fox Talks. And today I'm wearing this cute little hat that I got at Old Friends, just on Front Street in Louisville. And the owner actually gave me this necklace to wear too. It's super cute. So today, Fox Talks is about how Fox handles difficult tenant situations. So it's one of the main reasons that you hire us is because when everything's going great and the tenant's doing great and paying their rent and there's no conflict and there's no issues, managing your property on your own might be okay, but it tends to be that first tenant conflict or difficult situation that has people decide that professional property management is for them. So just kind of talking about this issue. So, there can be disagreements about rent. There can be disagreements about a lease. There can be an issue around maintenance that's nobody's fault, but is incredibly frustrating to a tenant. There can be an issue around a tenant going out of town and not reporting it, damage to the property or water issue that we don't find out about till it's too late. So it's really kind of defines property management is resolving conflict. It's conflict, and it's not necessarily negative. Sometimes it's just a challenge that needs resolution. And the way that we approach it is through our core values, which are to be kind, to find a way forward, and to own the outcome. And so that doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations or letting things slide. It just means that we approach problems with empathy and staying focused on the solutions and taking responsibility for seeing it through to the end. And difficult, I think it's important that that we state that, difficult situations with a tenant does not mean that the tenant is bad, right? Sometimes it feels difficult because the tenant's reporting things at your property constantly, and there's this maintenance thing and this maintenance thing. And so there's different ways to perceive it. One is that they're difficult, and the other is that they're letting us know about issues that need to get resolved, and whether and how we resolve them could be determined based on the situation, but at least they're letting us know what's going on. So it's important to understand that sometimes there's just misunderstandings. Sometimes there's a communication breakdown. Sometimes a tenant's frustrated because something's just not working in the home that just bugs them. Didn't bug the tenant before, but bugs them. Maybe it's something that you even put up in the with when you were living in the house that this new tenant's struggling with. Our job is to understand which situations we're actually dealing with before we decide what comes next. So what's the situation, assessing it, and who we want to be as a management company is a people-forward property management company, which believes that housing management, in doing it well, that we should treat owners and tenants with respect while operating within the Colorado legal framework. Like, how do we manage these difficult situations and respect everybody through it? So being kind does not mean being a pushover. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It doesn't mean that that the tenant gets exactly what they want. But it does mean that as we're working through a difficult situation, we are keeping in mind that we're dealing with human beings, that we're humans, they're humans, and that there's a lot going on that we may not know about. And how can we communicate in a way that they feel heard so that we can get through whatever this difficult challenge is. So kindness means approaching the situation with empathy, respect, and clear communication. And, we can enforce leases without being hostile, right? And we can say no without being unfriendly. And we can solve the problem and be direct in a way that they can hear us and understand that we're doing everything that we can. So Fox specifically describes being kind as leading with empathy and emotional intelligence and respecting, having respectful and clear communication, and that's how we're going to navigate through, difficult tenant situations. Another core value of ours is to find a way forward. So that's really about, pushing through situations, being resilient, solutions oriented. So it's particularly important with conflict, right? We don't want to simply call you and say, hey, we got a problem. Not sure what we're going to do next. We want to have thought about it. What are our options? What are some solutions? What does the lease say? What are our obligations from a legal perspective? What's an appropriate next step? What sort of communication we have? What do we know about this situation? What are our solutions ahead of time that we can then present to you? So Fox describes this philosophy as staying solutions oriented and focused, solving problems collaboratively and proactively, and then bringing owners a path forward so that we're coming to you with some ideas and ways that we can move forward rather than just simply handing you the problem. one of the things we pride ourselves in here at Fox is that we do a ton of our own mediation. And when I mean that mediation, it's looking at a situation, trying to find a way to come to a solution where all voices are heard, perspectives are heard, and we're working collaboratively to find that solution. So we often don't have to go to mediation with the city of Boulder or Denver or an outside mediator. Oftentimes we're able to do it ourselves. However, if a situation escalates to a point where we're not able to mediate, then that's where we would take it outside of our company and get mediation for all parties. But we prefer to find solutions through mediation with the tenant and do it in-house if we can, because it saves you time, it saves you money, it saves everybody some hardship. And, mediation doesn't mean that one person usually gets everything they want. It normally, involves some cooperation and giving up a little. And so, how do we do that in a way that represents you well? So that's an important part of dealing with conflict. When we're trying to deal with a difficult situation, we really try to go to the facts. We try to regulate emotion. We can't possibly begin to understand all the emotional reaction behind all the situations and what drives emotion. So we really have to focus on what happened. What information do we need? How can we move forward with that information? What communication has taken place? What maintenance records do we have? Are there photographs? I mean, obviously that really, really helps. Notices, other documentation. So really, you know, we want to understand the lease. We want our tenants to understand the lease. We want to maintain records and communication, photographs, and other tenant related documents so that we are dealing with facts and helping move forward in a kind way and also on a path towards resolution that involves what's actually happened and not just the emotional reaction to what's happened. Um, every decision we're making, we're really thinking of you, right? We're protecting you. You're our client. We want to be having you top of mind. And we believe that the best way to serve you and the best way to serve your investment is to work through conflicts in a productive way. And so we are trying to resolve conflict. It doesn't, when we're resolving conflict, it doesn't mean that we're just giving up to the tenant. We're more trying to look at how are we going to move this forward in a way that doesn't put you in a position that compromises you financially, especially. So we're managing, it's our job to manage conflict. That's what we do all day long. And we're managing your investment. And it means we take lease obligations seriously. We address issues appropriately, stay aware of all the laws and the changes, and make sure problems don't just get ignored. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues, right, is when people don't feel heard. So can we respond quickly? Can we resolve quickly? Can we communicate effectively? And, we hope to be a bit of like a compliance buffer for you where we're aware of situational um, information that allows us to stay in compliance so that we don't have any issues with that. So protecting your best interest doesn't mean that we ignore the tenant, right? We believe that by engaging with the tenant, we are protecting you. So protecting you, the tenant is a person who's living in your house. We want them to be happy there. Sometimes they have very legitimate concerns that really need attention. How do we work with you, with them, with the need, with the financial obligations to solve problems? And I think that, when there's a disagreement, it's really important for us to understand both sides and understand the situation from, because we can solve it quicker if we're really thoughtful and in good communication with the tenant as well. So, our philosophy really is built around treating people well, supporting, both the tenants and protecting you. And then that ethical management is what really is best serves your best interest. And so that's a really important part of what we do every day. And communication is key. And it's like the one thing we talk about all the time. Like if we could just be really, really excellent at communication, it solves so many of the problems. And so we focus a lot on that. You know, how's the issue being communicated? How quickly are we communicating? What's the frustration level of the people that we're talking to? Is the tenant getting defensive? Are you getting more frustrated as an owner? So these problems escalate because everybody's having a different experience with communication often, right? And so our job is to take the emotion out of that conversation and focus on what actually needs to happen. But that really is important, and really only goes well if we're doing a good job of communicating. So I think, although we do so, our job really all day long, every day is solving problems, even if the problem isn't anybody being upset, there's like an opportunity to solve. There's an opportunity or a challenge or a conflict. That's all we do all day long. It's what you pay us to do. Sometimes we can't resolve it, right? Sometimes, no matter what we do with our communication with the tenant, they don't pay the rent, and we have to move forward with other resources. So that might be eviction, it might be um, uh, taking them to collections, it might mean mediation. So sometimes we have to escalate, and it doesn't matter how kind we've been and how many paths forward we've offered and how much we care about the outcome and finding a good one. We just can't do it without using an outside resource, and so that's when we escalate those challenges. And we have a great legal team, and we have the support that we need to do that well. So the final core value is owning the outcome. So that's really taking accountability, that and it's not from a fault basis, it's from it is our job to find a way forward and own the outcome of every situation. So it's about having people work together to solve problems, and it's not about passing the problem on to someone else, it's about seeing it through to the end. And so if something goes wrong, we address it. And if there's a problem, we look for a solution. And if we need to bring in someone else, whether it's a vendor, an attorney, another resource, then that's what we do. So we describe owning the outcome as taking responsibility and following through and fixing problems when something goes wrong. So the bigger picture here is, at the end of the day, difficult tenant situations are part of owning a property. It's, you hope as a landlord that they just never happen. You just have a tenant move in, they pay their rent on time, the house is in perfect condition, we catch everything early, and you just hope that. But it's just not the reality of dealing with housing and dealing with people who all have big lives and a lot of experience and emotion that they bring to situations. You can't guarantee that every tenant and owner will agree on everything, but we need to have a process for dealing with these situations. And at Fox, it starts with, can we have kind communication and clear communication? Can we help all parties get the eye on the prize and have a path forward to resolution? And can we, as the property management company, own the outcome, that an outcome and a resolution will happen? Treating people with respect along the way. So in closing, it's kind of what property management's about, right? It's what we do. It's not just collecting rent and sending out maintenance and vendors and all that. Those are all very important things, but it's managing people and property and problems. And here at Fox, we are interacting with thousands of people all the time with the amount of properties that we have under management. And so it is really the main part of our job, is really solving problems for people. And sometimes the most valuable thing a property manager can do is step into a difficult situation, take the emotion out of it, understand what's really happening, and help people figure out what comes next. And that is what we try to do here at Fox. That's the Fox way, which is to be kind, to find a way forward, to own the outcome. And that's how we approach even the most difficult situations. So we hope that that aligns with you, and that when you think about difficult situations, that you are glad that we are approaching them the way that we are. And we hope to have very few difficult situations, but we hope that when those come up, and when you find yourself as a landlord in one of those situations engaging with us, that you will find us to be kind, you will find us to be resilient, solutions oriented, you will find us to be accountable. And that by being all those things and representing you, we hope to resolve conflict quickly and continue to provide you peace of mind with the management of your property. So thanks for listening today, and I'll see you next time.